893-7111. AmeriCare Services Incorporated. Call us today, 893-7111.
Rutherford Issues with Brian Barrett on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and streaming at WGNSradio.com.
Rutherford Issues powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE's Drive EV program has resources for members who would like to learn more about all aspects of EVs. MTE is developing programs and educational materials to answer member questions. Find out more at driveev.com. A lot to talk about. State Representative Mike Sparks joins us here today, and got several places we're going to be in conversation. Expecting to catch up with Randy Byrd, Southern States Police Benevolent Association, and kind of talk to us, Mike, a little bit about why you decided to have him on today.
Well, they contacted me yesterday about the Rutherford County Detective Jacob Bowe that's being laid to rest this week. They help fallen officers across the nation. I just thought it was very, very kind of them to do that when we have officers that may be killed, that lose their lives. So they should be called in here in just a few minutes. He told me they will be at the funeral and at the visitation, and it's so we'll be expecting his call in just a couple minutes here.
And a little later on in the program, we're going to be talking about the gun safe bill that was then wasn't.
Yes. Well, we as many listeners probably know, we passed it last year, but it's the way I presented the piece of legislation, it cuts taxes off gun safes and gun safety devices. One reason I run this bill is we're just seeing an epidemic of stolen guns. Those stolen guns get in the hands of 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. They get sold out on the streets. They're committing crimes with them. But I often talk about synchronicity, God wink moments, and I know many folks may not believe like I believe, but I seen where Kyle Yorlett, that young musician, was gunned down with a stolen gun. 3 teenagers, I think 13, 14, and 15, shot him point blank. They got a hold of a stolen gun out of a truck, I think a couple days prior. Now, my argument is, if that gun would have been locked up, Kyle Yorlett would be alive today. And another argument that I've got, because this has a fiscal note of about $420,000, the state does not like to cut taxes. Now, we've had record tax cuts, but sales tax is our main revenue stream. And so a lot of folks get a little pushed back on tax cuts like that. But the fiscal note on the murder of Kyle Yorlett to incarcerate those 3 juveniles is $500,000 easily. So one murder with a stolen gun is higher than the tax exemption that we're asking for. So what we did this year, we were going to pass it permanent, and Leader Lambert was in favor of that, and applaud him for his help. And we were just shocked that the Senate just did not take it up. I was just shocked. But
so it passed the House.
If they didn't pass it, so it's like it's stalled with us, and we're trying to scurry to find out what's going on with the Senate. But they didn't want to take up any gun bills. So our theory is, because it mentioned gun, they didn't want to talk about it, and it just got left on the burner. So what we're doing now is, I'm pitching this to Governor Bill Lee for special session, and hopefully the governor and the legislature will pass it. Mark Brassfield, who's going to call in here in a few minutes, owner of the Nashville Safe House, he came up and testified for me last year and gave good testimony, because a lot of folks come in to buy a gun safe, want to lock up their firearms because maybe they've got a young son or a daughter or a spouse that may be on some medication and dealing with some depression. But here's the irony with this piece of legislation. This is the only bill introduced this year that Tennessee Firearms Association, John Harris, Richard Archie, and Moms Demand Action, which is, some would call them like an anti-gun people, but they're for safe use of firearms. This is like the only bill that you'd find these groups all coming together. So we're proud of this bill, House Bill 343. Hopefully the governor will take it up in special session. So Mark Brassfield will be on with us here in a few minutes, Brian. But the special session, we could also, I've got the bill on the psych bed bill, I call it, and what it does on this piece of legislation is streamlines the process for folks, for patients that's at the ER, at the hospital, to get mental health treatment. So we got some pushback on that, had some big lobbyists come in and fought us on that. They moved it to next session. I don't know if the governor's going to take that up or not. We're pleading with him. But Secretary of State Trey Hargett and I were at Stonecrest Hospital last fall around October, and we're meeting with Stonecrest, and the CEO told me point blank, he said, Mike, we added on 16 beds over here at our ER, and every one of them's full. Every one of them's full. Much of it's mental health. And so all of a sudden I get asked to carry a bill, and this bill will help offer relief. So I'm hoping those two pieces of legislation will come up during special session.
Maybe a bit more about that in just a few. And Trey Nunley, if I heard that correctly, Trey is with the Southern States Police Benevolent Association. Are you with us?
I am.
All right. Well, very good. Good to have you along with us here today. And Mike, why did this catch your eye?
Well, when Randy Bird had sent me that email of the day, Lisa Marciani had him, I guess, forwarded over to me. Just making sure I was at the funeral and letting me know what they do nationwide for fallen officers. I just thought, man, it's timely. We've got the visitation tonight, we've got the funeral tomorrow. Rutherford County values are law enforcement, and I just thought the public would love to know what they do, and then know more about the visitation tonight and the funeral for Detective Jacob Bowe. Well,
Trey, maybe tell us a little bit about the work of your group.
I can do that. My name is Trey Nunley. I am it's a real fancy title, but it doesn't have all that much behind it, but I'm the Executive Vice President of the Stones River chapter of the Police Benevolent Association. We are comprised of all law enforcement officers in Rutherford County, as well as Cannon County, Bedford County, and Marshall. And the Police Benevolent Association essentially just provides a voice for law enforcement. We have everything from we help with governmental affairs. We help with legal defense. We help with various things that the officers may need, both the larger departments and smaller departments. But one of the most important parts of the association is the charitable branch called the Foundation. And the Foundation does all sorts of wonderful things, for our members and the families thereof. They provide financial support for the families of fallen law enforcement officers when it has occurred in the line of duty. They also fund scholarships for the children of law enforcement officers, while at the same time we've launched a big initiative that provides education for law enforcement officers and their families about the dangers of post-traumatic stress syndrome and suicide prevention, which has been a huge problem in law enforcement community here lately.
So you're with the Stones River chapter, so you're local. You're obviously very well aware of what happened with Detective Bowe, and here to help the family, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yes, I am a local law enforcement officer. I am in the local chapter, and I knew Jake personally, knew him very well.
Nice.
Great guy and a horrible loss. Well, just way too soon. Several people have asked about what the PBA or the PBF is doing for Jake and his family. And there is a fund that has been established through the PBF, the foundation, our nonprofit wing, that is going to be donating all the funds collected to Jake's family directly, 100% of it. That can be found through the Police Benevolent Foundation's webpage. That's pbfi.org.
Okay.
And when you go to pbfi.org, you will find Jake's picture on there and donate now, and some more information on there about what we do and how we go about doing it.
So again, make sure I've got that right. It's pbif.org, Police Benevolent Foundation.
It's PBFI.
FI, okay. PBFI, I've got it here now. Yeah, and I see.
PBFI.
Yeah, and see the link there and how to donate. So we'll be sure to get that posted on our website as well. And I guess you can just donate right there on the website, huh?
Absolutely. There's a direct link on there that'll take you to the donation page, and the foundation is a 501c3, so any donations are deductible.
It's obviously a loss when we have something like this happen within the community, and it obviously seems like everybody in blue is really kind of coming together behind the family and Detective Bo, and just I've heard only great things about him. He was a very strong personality. You always knew when Jake was in the room. And he had a very unique perspective on things, and it doesn't matter what we were encountering at the time, whether it was a very lighthearted event or a very tough, difficult event. Jake always had a unique perspective on it that would kind of had the ability to lighten the mood and just kind of make everybody feel better. And he's just one of those guys that when you met him, you couldn't help but not like him. He was just. There's not too many people in the world like that anymore, but he was one of them. Trey, you mentioned that you are in law enforcement, and so maybe kind of talk to me about why it's important for you to be part of the Stones River chapter, and what that means, and why you do that. Why? I mean, you could do 100 other things. Why serve in this capacity?
Well, there's a whole lot of reasons. The PBA overall is broken up throughout they're a nationwide organization. A lot of people hear about the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, and the PBA is another organization that's available to law enforcement officers. The Southern States branch, which I'm a part of, encompasses what it says, the Southern States branch. We've got everything from Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, so forth and so on. But our section alone is comprised of more than 65,000 law enforcement officers, and they're from the local level all the way up to the federal level. And they're funded by membership dues, but they provide legal, disciplinary, and other representation to officers who are members. And so there are some fantastic organizations in the law enforcement community throughout the nation that provide a voice and allow for the concerns of law enforcement officers to be heard on Capitol Hill, both locally and nationally. And the PBA is just another one of those.
Mike, you
but
have any?
They do great things like the foundation that we help out and reach out and help one another out when something like this does happen.
No, I appreciate you mentioned post-traumatic stress disorder. That's something that as a culture, we've got to take seriously. I spoke at a prayer breakfast 2 weeks ago. We had first responders there in Laverne, and that was something I mentioned there. I told the firefighters, look to your right, look to your left. I said, there is a possibility that one of your fellow firefighters won't be here in 10 years due to suicide or depression, and it's a serious issue, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And as a culture, that's something we need to highlight more.
Absolutely.
I think Tennessee General Assembly has funded more for counseling sessions throughout that, but it takes folks like y'all to help to advocate, so I appreciate what y'all do.
Absolutely, and from the law enforcement side, we recognize that legislation that was passed and is going into effect for the firefighters and stuff later, and we think it's tremendous, and are interested in that piece of legislation.
Well,
it's something that may be beneficial for us down the road as well.
I'll share this. When you say you talk to legislators, you come up to Capitol Hill, let me tell you why it makes a difference, because people listen. Now, there may be some people you may think that doesn't listen, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't for that firefighter bill 10 years ago. I went to school to be an EMT, and when they were advocating for that, the post-traumatic stress and that sort of thing, and they're talking about comparing it to being in the military, I'll be honest with you, I really wasn't for it. And then, because it does have a fiscal implication, And then I started listening to firefighters, and I heard their stories, and I heard them talk about some gruesome scenes they have to show up on. And then I was like, whoa. It's like Keith Bratcher, who's been on this show with us talking about this advocacy. He's like, it's hard when you're trying to pump on somebody's chest, bring them back from a heart attack. And he says, then go have a cup of coffee or have dinner, with your fellow firefighters. It's kind of challenging. So when you talk to legislators, I promise you, the ones I know do listen. So don't ever feel like if you come to Nashville or D.C. that people aren't listening, because folks do care.
Absolutely. And we recognize that, and we appreciate it.
Well, Trey, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. We'll get links on our website, and we've got a story about Detective Bo as well on our website, and we'll be sure to add that donation link so we know that all that money will be going to the family, and appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come talk to you today. I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime we can help, just be sure to let us know.
We'll sure do it. You guys have a great day.
You too. That is Trey Nunley with the Stones River chapter of the Southern States Police Benevolent Association. And we're going to get those links up on our website, pbfi.org. If you go there, the very first picture you see is Detective Bo and some information about that, and a click to donate, and a way that you can share on Facebook as well. So be sure to check that out there. And again, we'll get it on the podcast page of our website. We're going to take a quick break here and come back and wrap up in just a second. Stay with us here on Rutherford Issues.
This is Dick Palmer, voice of Blue Raider Baseball. We're excited to be on News Radio WGNS. Follow each pitch of the season on FM 100.5, 101.9, AM 1450, the flagship station for the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders.
Deep right field. Nobody's going to get that one. That one is out of the ballpark. And the Raiders continue to pile on the runs.
Your exclusive home for Blue Raider Baseball, News Radio WGNS.
Turn to Turner Security for your business or your home. With Turner on your team, you're never alone. For everything you'll need, all you gotta do is call. Turner's got it all. When you turn to Turner Security, powered by TechCore, you can leave your security issues at the door. Turn to Turner Security.
Rutherford Issues on News Radio WGNS.
Back here on Rutherford Issues, State Representative Mike Sparks with us, and very interesting conversation with Trey Nunley. And we do send our condolences to the family of Detective Jacob Bo and Jake. I guess he went by Jake. Yeah. And anyway, that's such a tough thing. Mike, there are the special session that is coming up. Well, the governor has called in August. Is that to take up school safety and gun legislation, or what?
Well, it should. August 21st is what the governor's calling for. Not sure how many days it's going to last. He's calling it to strengthen public safety and preserve constitutional rights, which is going to be a very controversial balance. But that's why I'm all in favor of the two pieces of legislation that we had, the gun safe bill that I'm hoping he'll take up, because like I said earlier, this is the only piece of legislation that you will find, Tennessee Firearms, the NRA, Moms Demand Action, that can come together for a press conference and be in favor of this. Laverne, we're seeing stolen guns, Smyrna, Eagleville, Murfreesboro, Memphis, big time. The mental health bill that I was mentioning you. We know it's a serious issue. All the mental health experts and the groups have said this is one bill that can help streamline to get people help that's in the ER. I was in the ER with my late mother. She passed in December. And I remember Butch Campbell was in there with his wife. We're at Ascend over at St. Thomas. And no disrespect to the hospital, but it was a madhouse. I mean, it was a madhouse. Now, it was controlled chaos, I guess you could say. My mother, we got there at 11. We got her a bed at 7:30, and we finally went to Trust Point. Butch, I called Butch next day. I think they got there at 10. I think they got a hospital bed at 9. And that's no disrespect to the hospitals if they're listening, But my legislation, here's the irony. I know hospitals are for this bill, but these other big lobbyists for Trust Point and Rolling Hills and other psych hospitals got involved and worked to kill my legislation. They're saying we're going to work on it, but these lobbyists, they'll tell you that, and they're not really. They speak out of both sides of their mouth. So that's why I'm asking the governor to take this. But we know it's a serious issue. Talk to anybody that works the ERs. Mental health is a serious issue. So hopefully the governor will look at that and this piece of legislation. What else he's got, I'm not sure. So in the manifesto, we're hoping that's going to come out. A lot of members are concerned that if we don't know what's in that Covenant shooting manifesto, how are we going to really try to deal with that specific school shooting and others that sadly is happening across our country.
So I understand that there are several groups that plan to be there. It's going to be it has the potential to be as chaotic as
that's what's so worrisome.
Before, yeah.
Man, I was talking to Ted Beatty. I went to Melissa Harrell's mother, Becky Harrell's funeral yesterday, and Ted and I were talking. I think a lot of him. He done a great job at the funeral yesterday, and I was like, man, this is the roughest General Assembly I've ever had. I mean, it's just depressing. I mean, it's, people need to be praying for your leaders, pray for your county commissioners, your school board members, your state reps, Congress, because there's folks out there that want to create chaos. You watch them. And this ain't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is just an American issue. Just come up. If people don't believe me, come up and just job shadow me and see what goes on. These folks, another radio station called it, is it bird dogging, where somebody runs up behind you with a camera and it's almost like, hey, have you quit beating your wife? Have you quit beating your wife? And they try to shame you, make you look bad. They've done that to me with race, try to like paint you as a racist. That's their angle, and that's why I'm going back to study media, because I see the power in media, but also see the lack thereof. I mean, some of this legislation we passed this year, I mean, WGNS, y'all don't cover things. You'll put the truth out there. But we've invested $223 million to improve school safety, $223 million to improve school safety, $140 million for school SRO officers in every public school, $30 million for Homeland Security agents in every county, and another $14 million for private school safety, as well as another 142 positions for the Tennessee Highway Patrol. And if you notice, you're seeing more Highway Patrol officers on the streets than we used to. But here's the thing about it, and I don't want to be putting down the opposing party. They'll be against this. How can anybody with sheer logic and reasoning be against having an SRO in a school? I mean, this is when they say defund the police, like they were saying last year, 2 years ago, they're not using that narrative because they know that narrative doesn't poll well with Americans. So they'll say other things. They want to defund the police, but here's the great thing about it. Governor Bill Lee and the General Assembly, our delegation, Tim Rudd, Don White, Shane Reeves, Brian Terry, and Charlie Baum, Robert Stevens, we want to fund law enforcement, and we funded law enforcement this last General Assembly. Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting few months, and from all indications, I mean, people are going to be here from all across the country. It's going to put Tennessee in the spotlight. This is what I've been saying. These folks are playing chess. We've played checkers. We look to here's the bad thing about the Republican Party. They look to next week, next year. These folks are looking to the next generation. So if you're a pastor or if you're a grandmother, get involved. Make a phone call to your lawmakers. Make a phone call to the governor's office. Bring up House Bill 343 that does improve gun safety and safe storage of firearms. So thank you, Brian, for letting me talk about it. Absolutely. State Representative Mike Sparks joining us today, and earlier Trey Nunley with the Stones River chapter of the Police Benevolent Association joining us, and you can listen back to the podcast on WGNSradio.com under Rutherford Issues, or wherever you listen to audio, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, iHeart. You can check us out there as well and subscribe to your favorites. Have a great day, everybody.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your